I am Councilwoman Kyonzte Toombs for Metro Council District 2. I am the chair of the Budget and Finance Committee. I am joined by Councilwoman Delisha Porterfield, who is Councilwoman for District 29, and she serves as the vice chair of the Budget and Finance Committee. And we're going to be talking about property taxes this evening, specifically how properties in Davidson County are valued. We're also going to be talking about the trustee's office, and the trustee's office is the office that collects your property taxes. And I know a lot of people probably didn't know there was a trustee's office until I just said it. So we are going to start with Assessor of Property Vivian Wilhoite. And Ms. Wilhoite was elected in 2016 as the Davidson County Property Assessor. She's the first African-American woman to hold that position, and she was re-elected in 2020. And so we're so happy to have her. She gives an awesome presentation, and so I'm going to let her dive right into it. She's also a former council member, District 29, from 2003 to 2011. So thank you so much for taking out time to present to the community.
Well, thank you, Council Lady. Well, excuse me. I want to say Council Lady of Finance and Chair, Kyonzte Toombs, and also to my council person, Council Lady and Vice Chair. Congratulations to you, Councilmember Delisha Porterfield, for representing us so well out in District 29. I am Vivian Wilhoite. I'm very excited about being here today. To my fellow colleagues that are online here, thank you so much for allowing me to be here today to talk with you about what we do best, value Nashville and Davidson County. I'm going to begin to share my screen. I probably should have done what my colleague just did to get a little trial run. I didn't do that. I should have taken a page from Trustee Erica Gilmore's book, but can you see my screen now? Hello?
Not yet.
I can see it. Brandon, will you allow Assessor Wilhoite to share her screen?
Yes, she's the presenter. If you would hit the share button, and then you'll be able to pick what you want to share.
I do not. Okay, thank you. Share button. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. I think we're good to go. Is that correct? Can everyone see the screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Very good. Very good. So once again, thank you for allowing me to be here today to talk with you about property valuation, which rolls into definitely property taxes. Council Lady Toombs, Council Lady Porterfield, and to the other honorable members on the Finance Committee, as well as the council members. As you know, joining this budget series, I think is an awesome idea. It's a great way of getting started and helping people to understand just the process. I think, Council Lady Toombs, I have done presentations for your community and have talked about the process. And I think people have been pretty surprised in reference to how the process actually works. As you know, the part of this procedure in reference to arriving at value is very important. This office provides, in reference to its work, provides and supports 46% of the city's budget. And so it's critical that we meet our responsibility in providing Nashville with a fair and equitable manner of values. The responsibility of our office is pretty clear. We identify, list, appraise, classify all taxable properties to achieve fairness and equity in values and prepare the annual assessment roll in a timely manner. When you think about us doing this particular function, we do it for more than 260,000 parcels. Back in 2017, we had approximately about 250,000 parcels. So you can see how much Nashville has multiplied since the last reappraisal. Statutorily, as you see before you, the commercial, residential, and personal accounts, you see the numbers that we assess in reference to value, but these numbers do not include the split classes, the agricultural, the forest, utility, and exempt classification of properties. But I wanted to pull out specifically the commercial, residential, and personalty because statutorily, we assess those properties at various, at different percentages. The commercial properties are assessed of their value of 40% of the value. The residential is assessed at 25% of value, and personalty is assessed at 30% of value. So, for example, if the value is $100,000 for whether it be commercial, residential, or personalty, for commercial, we would assess 40% of the value, which would make $40,000 of this tax. For residential, it's 25% of value, $25,000 will be taxed. And personalty, we would assess at 30% of value, meaning that $30,000 will be taxed. I say this a lot, and I can't say it enough. We're not the tax assessor. We're not the tax assessors. We are the property assessor or the assessor of property. With this particular framework right here, it explains that statutorily who is the property assessor and who is the tax assessor. That's a little joke, and you'll see why I say that when I go through this. The state constitution established what is called ad valorem tax system. That means for value, ad valorem tax system. And in the Constitution of the state of Tennessee, the assessment function and the taxation function is separated. As you look to your right, my left, the assessment function is assigned to the property assessor. There are 95 property assessors in Tennessee. The property assessor produces values by identifying listings, classifying and appraising the taxable properties to achieve equity in values and prepare the assessment roll. That is our primary responsibility. We do this on a 4-year term. Why? Because we chose versus a 5 or 6-year term to provide a reappraisal. So we do this, the reappraisal in a 4-year term. Once we provide those values, we pass the assessment roll in a timely manner on to the county trustee, which is my colleague, Erica Gilmore. And there, the tax rate is applied, calculating the tax bill, and the trustee mails the bills and collects the taxes. To the right of the property tax system landscape here, the taxation function falls with the county and legislative body, the county mayor and legislative body. That would be the county mayor and the legislative body being the Metro Council. So it is the county mayor and or legislative body that provides telling a property owner exactly how much they would need to pay in taxes by establishing a tax rate. How is that done? You or the county mayor and the legislative body would look at their annual budget each year and say, what is needed to pay the bills? What type of projects do we want to pursue this year or over a period of years? And by looking at that budget, it is decided what the tax rate would be. It is applied to the assessment roll, of course, and then that tax rate is sent to the county assessor, who does the very same thing as we've sent the assessment roll, applying that tax rate, calculating the bill, developing the tax bill, and collecting the taxes. So why do we reappraise? There are two main reasons why we reappraise, but the first one is very simple, and I mentioned it earlier. We're under an obligated 4-year plan that we've established with the State Board of Equalization to reappraise every 4 years. Our last reappraisal was in 2017. So our next reappraisal will be next year's, right around the corner in 2021. When we finish when we finish one reappraisal, we have to begin immediately for the next reappraisal. Why? Because to look at more than 260,000 properties, you can't do that in a year. So in the first 3 years of a reappraisal, we spend our time doing visual inspections of more than now 260,000 parcels. And then in our 4th year, we calibrate the value models and we analyze them to establish what is called the values provided to each property owner. Another reason why we reappraise is because, very simple, market values have changed, not only since 2017, but market values have changed since 2013. That's when we begin to see Nashville's values of commercial and residential properties descend to trend upward. But they have not changed uniformly across the county. So in order to restore equity and value, we must do what is called a reappraisal. Without it, property owners in a cold or depressed market area would pay more than their fair share. And we do not want property owners in a cold and depressed market to pay more than their fair share. How do we reappraise? I like to use the terminology swag. Some, while, blank, guess. We don't do swags. You fill in the blank what that blank means. We don't do swags. We use accepted appraisal practices. We analyze sales data in the market. We use the cost, income, and market approach to value. and you'll see most commonly the market approach for residential properties in Davidson County. We comply with the uniform standard uniform standards of professional assessments practice in order to establish values and comply with their guidelines and best practices. And of course, we also comply with standards of the State Board of Equalization, which we are governed by, and the laws that are established in the TCAs help us to arrive at value, because there are laws that we must follow in order to establish value. And we establish those values as of 1/1 of each year. How do you establish the market values in a mass reappraisal? You just see the terminology mass reappraisal, that is different from a fee appraisal. Mass reappraisal is pretty simple in reference to its wording. Mass property coupled together, like properties. So how we do mass reappraisal are different than doing a fee appraisal, which is normally done for one property. We build valuation models at the countywide level. Then we calibrate those models at the neighborhood level, so we can really dwindle down to what is considered to be like properties, similar properties. There are more than 850 neighborhood models, 850 neighborhoods that we've developed, and basically this office, prior to my coming here, has developed those neighborhoods in order for us to establish our mass appraisal to arrive at value. We look at the current market values in order to establish those neighborhood levels, and we use the cost, market, and income approach data in order to arrive at the value as well. This is pretty much key. I think I've talked about this so much that I think it's now really coming to mind for many of the members on the Metro Council in reference to what is a certified tax rate. But let me just first say, the reappraisal, it is not designed to raise revenue. The reappraisal is not designed to raise revenue. Out of the reappraisal comes what is called a certified tax rate. That's probably the one and only time that this office would actually deal with a tax rate. The reason why a certified tax rate is critical is because the law says that a reappraisal cannot allow the city to incur a windfall of added revenue on existing construction. So the tax rate must be adjusted so there is not a windfall of revenue on existing construction. So you may ask yourself, where does the city get its new money? It gets its money from new construction and improvement on properties. So it is required that the tax rate be adjusted to produce the same amount of revenue as the previous year. That is in the law. So the reappraisal is not designed to raise revenue. You must, by adjusting the tax rate to what is called a certified tax rate, that ensures that the local government does not get a windfall of added revenue on existing construction. So once that is done and you have a certified tax rate, it is a revenue neutral tax rate. And of course, that may bring about a thought that I'm going to mention a little bit later about what next year's exercise is going to be about. The CTR also, its effect on the market, it also not only makes sure that someone in a depressed market not pay too much, but someone in a hot market pay their fair share, and those who are in between pay about the same. So what the CTR does is lower the tax burden for property owners whose values that fall below the county average increase in value. In April of 2021, you're going to receive what is called your new market value. The new market value that you receive will be your value for the next 4 years, unless something to your property changes, whether it be an improvement to your property, and God forbid, hopefully not, but damage to your property. But as long as there's no changes to your property, whether left or right, or either improvement or damages, your value will stay the same for the next 4 years because it is for ad valorem tax purposes. When you receive that value in the mail, You may be excited about the value, the way Nashville's values are trending upward. You may be excited about the value, but that is the opportunity for you to ensure that you believe that your values are right. And we want you to trust in the product that we provide. At the end of the day, the property owner has the right to appeal their values or ask for a review of their value. And there are different steps that they can take in order to get that done. The first opportunity for a property owner to review their value or appeal the value is the informal review. The second opportunity is with the formal appeal at the independent board of the Metro Board of Equalization. And the third opportunity, not necessarily the final opportunity, but the third opportunity is at the State Board of Equalization. Really, to be truthful, the final opportunity is all the way to the Supreme Court. But we tell property owners they don't have to do that. We're going to work with you. We want to understand why you believe your value is what it is, and we're going to be transparent in telling you how we arrive at value, because we work for the property owners. In the informal review, that is the opportunity for the property owners to provide information about their property. We always say that the property owner knows more about their property than anyone. So that gives them an opportunity in the informal review status to share with us information we may have missed, because we want to get it right. The informal review can be requested online or by phone. And once you get that new market notice in April, the informal review opportunity opens at that time. The decision on the informal review will be provided to you by my office in early May. The best method to file an informal review is to file your request online. You can go to www.padctn.org, and there you will be able to file your own review. You can provide us with your comparables that you found online. We have all the comparables there, all the sales comparables there. And listen, don't provide us with your lowest values, the lowest sales to compare your property, because we didn't use the highest sales to arrive at value for your property. We just want to be fair. You can also call our office and talk with an appraiser to set an appointment for a teleconference informal review at 615-862-6080. When the time for the informal review open is best, the rule of thumb to think of it is when you receive your new market value in April, and we will have dates out there for you to be aware of. And as I normally do, we're going to send it to the council members, the mayor's office, and all of the fellow colleagues first, so they can know in advance and send it to the media. And we will continue to be proactive in providing that deadline date by 4 p.m. because we don't want people to miss their opportunity. But if they do, or if they disagree with the appeal decision that we provide you in late May, there's a next step, your formal appeal. You can file an appeal to the Independent Metro Board of Equalization or its hearing officer. Now, the hearing officer is a one-on-one opportunity that the property owner can come in the formal appeal and make their case about why they believe their value is not what they believe it should be. Or they can go before the non-member board, the independent board of the Metro Board of Equalization, whose members are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the council. The deadline to establish your appeal is usually around mid-June by 4 p.m. That is very important. We will be, again, proactive in providing you with that date and with the time so that property owners will not miss their opportunity to appeal their value. Failure to appeal your value to the Metro Board of Equalization may result in your loss to further appeal rights for the 2021 tax year. Of course, the next step would be the State Board of Equalization, and that would be only after the Metro Board of Equalization has dismissed and no longer convenes. Again, unless you appeal, the last written notice you provide may become your final assessment, and that final assessment value will be effective as of January 1, 2021. One good thing you need to know, you can file an appeal every year, but we believe that you wouldn't have to, because we believe in the product that we provide to Metro Nashville, Davidson County, and we want to work with property owners to help them understand how we arrive at values in a transparent way and how they believe their value and help them understand why we arrive at their value with what has been presented to them. was very important that you must file in a timely manner, meeting all deadlines. I don't have to tell the folks here on this presentation, the council members here, the honorable members here about the tax increase that passed in June of 2020. But I'd like to just point out a couple of things in reference to the passage of the tax increase. Once again, the assessor of property and staff does not set the tax rate. The only time that we get involved with the tax rate is when we are doing the reappraisal and resulting in establishing the certified tax rate, which is a revenue neutral tax rate. At that point, it is the mayor and or the Metro Council that must decide whether they want to maintain or keep that certified tax rate as the tax rate. That was done in 2017. And of course, since that time, of course, a tax increase has occurred. Remember, we're responsible for setting the values for real, personal, and commercial properties. As I stated before, the mayor and the Metro Council, they're responsible for setting the tax rate. There's some things to clear up in reference to the general service district increase so that folks who are watching this presentation to understand. The Davidson County is a 2 tax rate county. You have your general service district and you have your urban service district. The rule of thumb in reference to what is a general service district is an area where you normally would be paying for your trash pickup. That's probably a rule of thumb of realizing you are in a general service district area. The prior general service district rate was 2.755, and it increased to 3.788 per $100 of assessed value. As for the urban service district, it increased from 3.155 to 4.221 per $100 of assessed value. The new tax rate, and this is something that many people were very confused about, but the new tax rate became effective immediately, but truly as of 1/1/2020. Because you had not received your tax bill in October. So it was effective as of 1/1/2020. And of course, the Davidson County trustee uses that tax rate to calculate against our values to create the October bill and collect the taxes. This is something that I have always been very proud about when it comes to Davidson County. For the tax rates that we have established in Davidson County in comparison to the 3 other major Tennessee cities, you get a lot of bang for your bucks. And we have had the lowest tax rate than the 3 other major cities for over the past 30 years. Also, there are other districts, other local districts, about 50 of them, with their combined tax rate, we are still the lowest. As you can see, Davidson County new tax rate is 4.221, but in comparison to Knoxville, their tax rate per assessed dollar, per 100 of assessed dollar is assessed value, is 4.5838. Knoxville. And they have UT, we have what? The Titans. So that tells you we get a lot of bang for our buck. Hamilton County, which has Chattanooga, their tax rate is 5.0422. And Shelby County, which houses Memphis, their tax rate is 5.42. So as you can see, our current tax rate is the lowest in any other 3 major cities in comparison to Nashville. And also, another point that I like to point out is that prior to the recent tax increase, there had not been a tax increase since 2012. In our presentation, we do talk about the tax freeze, relief, and deferral programs that are administered by the Metro Trustee's Office. My colleague is going to talk about that in depth. I won't go through that, but we are an office that believe, and I always have encouraged Metro Council members and every leader of the community to talk about these programs. When we consider from what we're seeing from now, Council Lady Toombs, is that the values of Nashville are increasing. And from what we're saying, we want everybody to be on these programs that qualify. It takes more than just one office, one person, 3 people, 5 people to get this information out. So we think that by us conjoining with this information and providing it in our presentation, it helps to spread the word whenever we are giving presentations about the services. This particular program, which is one I learned when I was on the council, is a program for seniors that are offered up by the Metro Action Commission. That is a program that we all should be talking about. You could be younger than the tax freeze relief program of 65 or older. You could be 62 to qualify for at least $500 on your taxes, particularly if you're past due. But my understanding with the Metro Action Commission They look at every situation on a case-by-case situation. You can calculate your tax payments on our website. Our website, again, is www.padctn.org. Click on Services and select Tax Rates and Calculator. As of Monday, June the 1st, of course, as a result of COVID-19, we have been closed to walk-in constituency services. But as of Monday, June the 1st to date, we have returned to the walk-in constituency services. However, we ask that you call us in advance if you need an in-office visit, or if you happen to come to the door, just coming by to ask a question, obtain some information regarding your property, or in reference to information regarding details of your property that you want to correct. There's a number at the door that you can call before you enter, and of course, we will get the information and, of course, have you come in if it's necessary to assist you. We do ask that you wear a mask, or we provide you with a mask to wear. You must be prepared for a temperature check, and as well, you must adhere to social distancing. Of course, you can always call us at our telephone number of 615-862-6080. You can email us at assessorweb@nashville.gov. You can email me directly at vivian.wilhoite@nashville.gov. And of course, the snail mail, no doubt about it. You can always provide us with your inquiry at P.O. Box 196-305, Nashville, Tennessee 37219. Our website, we are really excited about some things that are coming with our website that we've been working on for the past, I would say about 2 years. And we're looking forward to implementing some additional information that can really help not only you as my colleague, you all as my colleagues, but of course the constituents of Nashville, Davidson County. As always, everything that we do, we have a statement such as this as it measured by, and it is our pleasure to be of service to you because we want to do all the good that we can in every way that we can for all of the people that we can while we can. Thank you, and I look forward to any questions you may have after my colleague, Trustee Erica Gilmore.
Thank you, Assessor Wilhoite. And just to let the audience know, I see Councilmember Hauser's hand is up and probably some other folks have questions. We're going to take questions at the end, so I'm going to turn it over to Councilwoman Porterfield so that she can introduce Trustee Gilmore.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you so much, Assessor Wilhoite. That was a very, very thorough presentation. It was very informative. So thank you for sharing that. And it looks like I may be frozen. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, great. I see a head nod. So I have the pleasure of introducing our trustee, Erica Gilmore. She is a former councilwoman. She served as the District 19 councilwoman for 2 terms, and she also served our city as a council member at large. She was recently elected in 2019 as the first African-American trustee. She was also the first woman trustee, therefore being the first African-American woman trustee. So we are excited to have her today. So thank you so much, Trustee Gilmore. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Porterfield. I really appreciate you. And it was just such a pleasure to work with you. And I'm just so delighted. So thank you for Councilwoman Toombs and yourself, Councilwoman Porterfield, for having us this afternoon. And if we can go ahead and share that screen, we'll get started. And I just think this is exciting to get this started. Budget, someone asked me, when do budgets normally start? I said, well, we normally start them in May. They said, wow, they're getting a jump on it. I said, yes, they definitely are. So we definitely appreciate you empowering the people. So I think it's Brandon that's gonna go ahead and let me have the screen so that I can share my PowerPoint. Is it Brandon?
Yes, you have presenter. You should be able to share now.
Okay, I don't see it. It popped up the first time. Let's see here. Okay, I see it now. Thank you. All right, thank you so much. My name is Erica Gilmore, and I am the Metropolitan Trustee. I believe in transparency, efficiency, and accountability. As Councilwoman Porterfield shared with you, I am the 7th Metropolitan Trustee of Nashville and Davidson County. I was elected in August 2020, and I was the first African-American as well as the woman to serve for the Metropolitan Trustee in Davidson County. The office of the trustee is a constitutional office that was established as a tax collection agency, and I think my colleague did a wonderful job of explaining the difference between the assessing of the value. Thank you, Assessor Wilhoite. Our offices work very closely together. We're actually in the same building. We're right across from one another on the floor. So they assess it and we collect the taxes. There are a variety of taxes that we collect. One is real property, which is tied to your parcels of where you live. Personalty, which are things that people use to generate business. So it could be things like computers or your telephones, anything that you use to help your business are considered personalty taxes. We also collect public utility taxes. In addition to that, we administer the tax relief program, which is a program that's by the state, and it's also with the council, and I'll go into a little bit more detail with that, and I think Assessor Wilhoite shared some information about that. The tax deferral, which is where you defer your taxes to the end, and that once your estate is settled, you sell your home, you can pay those taxes. And we also have the tax freeze program, and that's whatever year your taxes, that you apply for the program, your taxes are frozen at that level. We also collect delinquent taxes, and we also collect taxes in 3 improvement business districts. And those are just districts that are taxed within themselves, and then there's a base tax. So we collect taxes from the Central Business Improvement District, which is downtown, the Gulch Central Business Improvement District, which is also downtown. It's a little bit south of downtown. And then we also do vegetation liens as well. We put people first, whether it's our employees or the taxpayers, we put them first, and we believe in giving them the best customer service. Since I am new, I did want to share what we've been doing the first 100 days. So the first thing was we did a mission statement. And on that mission statement, everyone in the office participated in that. And our mission statement was, we're committed to making this the most transparent, inclusive, and participatory administration in the metropolitan government. We will provide the most effective and efficient services while earning the public's trust, which I think is very important, especially when we talk about 2020 and just so much going on. Every member will make every taxpayer feel respected and valued. Our team will serve the taxpayers of Metropolitan Nashville and Davidson County with the highest level of professionalism, integrity, knowledge, and expertise, especially when people come in and they want to understand why their taxes were increased and how that works. So we do walk them through that, and they want to know about the different programs. So it's very important that our tax specialists here are very knowledgeable about what they do. We also conducted a survey when we arrived in with the new administration. We did an internal audit, which the audit is still continuing to be worked on. They're almost completing that. The first day we did that. And we did an operating budget for 1 year. And we also did a 2-year strategic plan initiative. In addition to that, we implemented a day 1 leadership structure. We completed 3 lunch and learns for our staff. And those 3 lunch and learns were about a variety of different things. One dealt with the referendum and customer service. The other one dealt with benefits and the function of the office through the lens of each person and the different tasks that they do. And the third one was the tax relief program and the tax rollout, because we're required by the first Monday of October to get those tax bills in the mail, and we do that. And so a lot of people don't know that that's actually a Tennessee code and that we're required to do that. So we discussed about how that process looks. We developed a new organization structure that provides support for these new strategies. In addition to that, we implemented our website. We defined a plan to modernize our technology systems. So we updated all of our computers because we realized that COVID-19 was something that would require us to modify our plans. And in addition to that, all of our staff now have laptop computers, and we tested our systems so that we can work from home and that their information, and I'm talking about the taxpayers' information, would not be breached. So that was very important as well. And so we've done that. And so we're prepared, even as we move into December, the next couple of weeks, we know that it's important that we keep the employees safe as well as our taxpayers that come into the office. So we're prepared to do that as well. We also identify community outreach initiatives and partners. So we've had one event in Goodlettsville, was very successful. We signed up 60 persons for that event. We have one that's coming up this week at North Nashville YMCA. It is from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And that, once again, is the tax relief, tax freeze. This is a part of our outreach and our initiative. We developed content and engagement strategies based on key audience segments. So we now are on Facebook, Instagram, Flickr, and Twitter. So I wanted to show you a little bit about the districts at glance, and I'll share this with each one of the council members as well. I think it's important when we talked about the referendum, a lot of people were concerned about how the tax collections will look. So I'll just take one or two different districts, but I will share this information with council members and they can convert it into the different things that they need and how that fulfills their needs. So if we look at District 1, we billed District 1 residents or taxpayers at $11,479,288.25. And this is from, remember I said the bills go out the first Monday in October up until November the 17th. For November the 17th, 2019, $919,880.56 was collected. Also, we can look at District 19, which was billed, that's the downtown core area, $165,288,687.85 was billed, but 5.6 million was collected. Council Lady Porterfield, what's your district?
District 29.
Okay, we're gonna look at 29, and then I think Council Lady Toombs' district is your district 3?
2.
Or 2. Okay, so we'll look at 2 as well. So District 2 was 24 million was billed and 1.9 was collected. Okay, and so we're gonna look at District 29 as well. If we look at District 29, once again, we said this is from October to November of last year, 2019. $11,992,982.63 was billed, but $851,094.85 was collected. That was for 2019. Now we'll look at 2020. So once again, people were concerned about the referendum and what impact they would have. So if we look at District 1, we saw that 15.9 million, I'll just say, was billed. 1.4 million was collected. We can look at District 19, $233,426,368.43 was billed, but 10.4 million was collected. And we said we're going to do Councilwoman Toombs, 33 million was billed and 2.5 million was collected, which is significantly higher than last year. And we're also going to look at Councilwoman Porterfield as well, which is District 29. District 29, we had 11.9 million that was billed, and we have collected up until this point, which is 6 weeks, just 6 weeks, we've collected $851,094.85. So the average that's still been collected is 6.8, whether we look at 2019 or 2020, we're still collecting at the same rate, which is very important because these monies are provided to the Metro Council and the mayor, and it goes towards different things versus it goes towards school debt. It helps with the roads and with the police officers and just different infrastructure. So these monies are very important. I want to talk to you about the tax relief program. I'm so thankful for this tax relief program because it's something that was implemented by the Tennessee State Legislature or the General Assembly. But in addition to that, our council, our Metro City Council, provides $5.1 million for tax relief and tax freeze programs. The Metropolitan Council is one of the largest, they give one of the largest appropriations out of anyone in the state of Tennessee. And so I just want to publicly thank you, Councilwoman Porterfield and Councilwoman Toombs, for doing that, and all the other council members that are on here. We get good notes. Those are the one things that we get good notes. A lot of people are not happy with the tax increases, but the seniors really appreciate this, and they bring us donuts and cakes, and it's all because of your good work. So we really appreciate you. And they give us thank you letters, so we're just so appreciative. And it's so important after we think about the tornado, people not being able to work like they once were. So these monies are important, and they do a good deed. There is a particular cutoff point for this. You must have you cannot make more than $30,700, and that is for the people that own the property. So it doesn't matter how many people live in the house, it's actually the property owner. So it could be two partners, husband and wife, it's just whoever's on that deed, but that cannot exceed $30,700, and they cannot be younger than 65 years of age. They must be 65 before the end of the 2020 year, December 31st. The total amount of tax relief that we have provided for this year is $6,075. Now, once again, remember, this is just in a 6-week period. So we're processing and getting people on rolls at about 1,000 people a week. So we just want you to know that your monies are going well and that the people in this office are working hard, which once again goes back to our mission of being effective and efficient and treating the taxpayers and being fiscally responsible with the money. The amount that we've paid out in 2019 was $259,187. The amount that we've paid out so far for 2020 is $230,477. And we still have more to go. It doesn't actually end until April the 5th. That is the last day that we can take a tax relief, tax freeze application. So this program goes all the way to April the 5th. In addition to that, we have the tax freeze program, which this is a program that was implemented by the state legislature in 2007. And once again, Davidson County, we're so progressive. We were the first county or the metropolitan government, because we're consolidated, to implement this program. For the tax freeze, once again, you need to be 65 years or older, cannot be older than that or younger than that. And you need to be 65 by December the 31st. And if you are, the year that you apply, so it would be 2019, your taxes would be frozen at that particular point. So if your taxes were $2,000 and they were $3,000 this year, if you applied, we would go back to 2019 and they would be frozen at the $2,000 mark. And so this number so far for 2020, the tax freeze participants that we have are 2,602. And once again, the cutoff is a little bit higher, but I cannot see right now, but it's 40,000. It's let's see here. It's the tax freeze amount is $43,810. And so once again, we encourage everyone to participate. You can do this via mail, you can submit it, or you can have one of our specialists to talk with you via the phone. Let's see here. Also, we want to look at it, but I got to move this box, you guys. I do apologize. This box is driving me crazy. It's on the right-hand side of where I'm trying to do my... Okay, there we go. All right, so what we have here is, I just want to show once again, we have mail a lot of different ways. A lot of people ask what the trustee's office do, so I just want to share with you. We have mail that comes through the lock boxes. This is First Horizon, is our particular bank, so it means when they mail their checks to these banks, that's the way that the money comes in. Once again, if we look at 2019, these are just the different lock boxes and the different amounts. You got 38 million at the top, 40 million at the bottom for 2019. And for 2020, you have 44 million for the first row in that lockbox. And for the last lockbox, you have 47 million. So once again, we are still collecting our taxes at the same rate that we have been doing in 2019. So I want the council to know you don't have anything to worry about. In addition to that, we have mortgages. Mortgages are usually paid, about 75% of them are paid by December. And the reason that the mortgages or the mortgage companies pay by December is, of course, a lot of the persons that are taxpayers usually want to get that write-off and claim it on their taxes before January, the new year. So we do get some mortgages in February, but most of them come in December. And so the mortgages that we received in terms of payments were $581,000 in 2019. And in 2020, you can see it's been $864,580.37. And so what you have to the left, if you count over, you see 2019 mortgage right here, and then you see mortgage payment, and then you see the numbers. So this means there were 475 transactions as it relates to mortgage payments, and this represents 522. So the actual amount of mortgage payments are higher as well. So we're seeing an increase in transactions and in the amount of money. So two things are happening. And so it may be something, I don't know, don't want to get too analytical with it, but people may feel like, at least if my house is paid for, and if I pay for my taxes, I don't have to worry about anything else. I'm just kind of taking care of my food, shelter, and clothing type of things. So let's go to the next one. And then we have in-house mail. So I'm showing you the different ways that we receive tax payments. In-house mail are mail payments that are mailed directly to the trustee's office. In 2019, during this time, remember, this is a 6-week period. This is just from October the 1st to November the 17th. In 2019, it was 18 million that was collected. And in 2020, it's been $26,578,009.23. And once again, if you look, the number of transactions are higher. So the number of the pieces of mail where people have paid is much higher than it was in 2019. So the numbers are up increasingly, and the number of pieces of mail are up as well. So 7,793 people have paid in the 6-week period, whereas 6,821 people had paid for 2019 during the same time. This is just 6 weeks. This concludes my presentation. I would like to thank Councilwoman Toombs once again and Councilwoman Delisha Porterfield for giving me the opportunity. I also want to thank the taxpayers and the residents of Nashville Metropolitan County for electing me, and I promise to continue to do a good job. And just know if our staff can do anything for you, we will. I have one of the hardest working staff on this side of Nashville and Davidson County, and I really do appreciate them embracing us, and we just hit the ground running. So thank you so much for your time. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Trustee Gilmore. That was some really good information. Thank you for sharing that and informing the public on, what our tax receipts are looking like so far. That's good information to know, as we're gearing up for budget season. So we're going to move on to the question and answer portion of the presentation, and Councilwoman Porterfield and I will take turns asking questions of Trustee Gilmore and Assessor Wilhoite. And so Assessor Wilhoite, I'll start with you and ask you a question about how the tax rate for short-term rentals. So, a lot of folks consider short-term rentals a commercial business and with residential zoning. So are they taxed at the 40% or the 25%?
There has been a new piece of legislation that passed. I have provided information to all the Metro Council members when that legislation was passed. One of the things that have always been a great concern of many folks who believe that short-term rentals should be taxed accordingly as commercial. That is basically what the legislation has presented itself to be. So short-term rentals are taxed at 40%. However, there is a concession in reference to you having more than one short-term rental. The way the law pans out is that if you are your primary residence, and if it's your primary residence, that is a rental that is a residential, but if you have a second or an additional short-term rental, that will be taxed at the commercial rate of 40%. So 25%/40%.
Thank you. And I wanted to ask a question about that to you, Assessor Wilhoite, about the certified tax rate. You said that it's revenue neutral.
Yes.
So in previous presentations I've seen of yours, that means that because the city can't have that windfall from the increase in value of properties, some folks will see their tax bill go down, some folks will see it go up, and some folks will stay about the same. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yes, the certified tax rate, that's the effect of the certified tax rate. It is to establish equity. So in the sense that the certified tax rate is established, you will see your tax rate go down if your value increased by less than the county-wide average. That basically provides the description of an area that may be distressed. Those areas that are like in between economical advancement, maybe moving out of distress, you may see their tax rate to remain the same. So if the countywide average was 30% and your value increased by less than 30%, you pay all right at 30%, you're going to pay about the same. In areas where the increase of value exceeded the countywide average, they're going to pay a little bit more, representing the hot market activity in that area. So the tax rate as far as the CTR is concerned, it is there to establish that equity, which is what it does for those who are below the countywide average, at the countywide average, or above the countywide average. But it also ensures that there is not a windfall revenue received by the local government on the existing construction as a result of the reappraisal.
Thank you.
Does that help you to understand the effects of the CTR? Perfect.
It does. It does.
Establishing equity is the key there.
Okay.
Or reestablishing equity is a better way of saying it.
Thank you so much for that answer. I do have a question for Trustee Gilmore. Do we use all of the funds that are received for the tax relief programs?
So in the past, I think they have, but this year, the number I had shared with you is we're in 6 weeks. So we have all the way into April the 5th, and I think we're going to meet those deadlines where we'll exhaust all of it, and especially considering the type of year it is with the COVID-19 and the tornado, which really had an impact. I think I shared the number. I know we've processed 2,000 applications. You give about $5 million in dollars. I cannot remember, but I'll get it back to you. But it looks like that we are on the trajectory of meeting those goals and spending all of that money to help all of those seniors who qualify. Yes, ma'am. We're not holding any dollars back. For everybody that's qualified, we're giving them what you have allocated for them and what they paid to as citizens. So we appreciate that, or I should say as taxpayers. So, yeah, and I just want to remind people quickly, too, there is an application process, and we've had a lot of, I wish I would have broken that down as well. We've had a lot of people that are first-time applicants to come in this year. So those numbers are high as well, and I can get that for you. But seeing a lot of first-time applicants, when you're a first-time applicant, you have to provide your Social Security, and you have to provide your voter's registration card and just your SSI and different things of that nature. But then after that, you just call in and we ask you a couple of questions and we recertify and you provide your income. So it's a little bit more simple, but the first year it is quite a bit of paperwork. Yeah.
Thank you. And the questions that we are sharing are questions that we receive from the public. So some of these you all may have covered in your presentation. So if it is something that you already covered, we appreciate, you may want to skip that question. One question that came in is, what happens if a property owner is late paying their taxes? What options are available? And does Metro seize property because of delinquent taxes?
Yeah, now that's a really great question. There used to be a lot of seizures, but we have really worked with the taxpayers over the years. And I know this office, we encourage people to pay what they can, to pay a little bit at a time. But there is, it's usually maybe 1 or 2 years. It's not right away where it goes into where we sell the property, where we seize it, but we actually turn it over to the clerk and master. So once we are not able to collect, we do turn it over to the clerk and master, but it is a couple of years before the property is just turned over to be sold. But we just encourage people just to pay a little bit at a time. And there's usually an amount that's provided on the receipt. And a lot of people think they have to pay it in full. So that's a great question. And there's usually a breakdown that says you can pay, if you pay like $500 a month or $100 a month by this time, you're fine. But then after February the 28th, there is a penalty, and that penalty does increase. It usually starts at like 1%, and then it decreases from there. So it begins to be penalties before we just go directly to seizing the property. It's usually like a 3-year process before that property is seized. And we do not personally handle it. We turn it over to the clerk and master, and then they begin with that process.
Thank you.
So just to follow up on that question a little bit, Trustee Gilmore. So if you're on a payment plan and you go beyond February 28th, but you're still on your payment plan, you're okay as long as you're paying those additional penalties?
That is correct. That is correct. And it's the second year that the property is turned over to the clerk and master. So the person has 2 years. There are penalties after February the 28th, but it's not that your property seized automatically when you're not making those payments that year, which is important to know.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Assessor Wilhoite, you talked about property owners having the ability to appeal the assessment of their property if they feel like the value is too high or maybe too low. For folks who feel like the value is too high, I'm thinking of people who are in older neighborhoods and maybe they bought their home in the 80s for $70,000 and developers have come in and all the other homes have, they sold, for $250. And so now their home has a higher value. So maybe their home is being valued at $250 because that's what homes are selling for in the area. So if I'm someone on a fixed income and that's too high for me, and that's my argument that I just can't afford the resulting, I know you don't assess property taxes, but the resulting tax bill because of the higher valuation. Right. I feel like I can't afford it. Is there an element of fairness that's considered as part of the appeal? Like what are you looking at when folks are appealing their property value?
Well, okay. Well, first, in reference to your question, you had stated that what homes are selling for in the area. Mm-hmm. Just to refine that statement a little bit, drill it down to really the correct way we look at it, is homes that are similar to your property that are selling for in the area. Unfortunately, we do not have the ability to look at a person's situation. That's the reason why it's very important that Councilor Gilmore and my office work closely together, because those programs that she talked about, tax freeze, relief, deferral, and the program offered by the Metro Social Services, that is a job of getting that information out to everyone. When you're speaking of the person who's on a fixed income, who bought the home at $70,000 or whatever the amount, some many years prior, we have to look at the three approaches to value, which is what we do for all properties when it comes to best practices and principles in order to arrive at value. And as I mentioned in the presentation, we use the cost approach, the income approach, and the market approach. The market approach being the most frequently used approach to value, which is where we look at a person's property and look at what it would bring on an open market for a similar property. But we remain open to the property owner, because the property owner may tell us that their roof is leaking. Well, we cannot visually see that our roof is leaking, or the foundation is cracked. We cannot visually see that unless we're inside the home. So that's the reason why we are very liberal in reference to the fact of ensuring that people are aware of the informal review. We want to get it right. So we make sure people are aware of that so that they can tell us about their property. The person who knows the most about their property is the property owner. So that is the concession that we provide, is being listeners of the property owner, and we have to confirm that information in reference to what the property owner is telling us. Someone calls up and say, my roof is leaking, my foundation is cracked, I burned my kitchen and I didn't pay my insurance, so therefore I lapsed my insurance and my house is damaged. We can't say, oh, okay, we'll adjust your value. We have to trust, then verify. So that's what we have to do, and that's what we do in reference to ensuring that we're listening to property owners to make sure that we're providing with a product that they can believe in, because it is based on information that we know very well exists.
Thank you, Assessor Wilhoite. And I'm glad you mentioned the phrase similar properties. Mm-hmm. So going back to my home that I bought in the 80s for $70,000, mm-hmm. the home next door to me that was a similar property sold for $250,000. It got torn down. Now there's a huge house there that's worth $600,000. Is my house now worth $600,000?
No, it is not, because now the house is not the house that was there is not similar to the house that is there. It's not similar to your property, but we do take that sale of the original property and we use it to develop our land valuation. So it helps us to establish our land value per square footage in reference to the property itself. We utilize the sale, but we don't utilize the new property that is there in order to compare to your property. We will use that to establish our vacant land sale type of data. I mean, before we compare it to a property that is similar. And we get that a lot, Councilor Toombs, that people say, that big mansion went up next door to me. Now my home is worth that amount of that big mansion. No, because think about it. That mansion may have all of the ultra modern type of amenities, and your home is a home that may have some older amenities in reference to the house itself, in reference to its structural makeup, number of bedrooms, number of plumbing fixtures, all of that. It has to be incomparable. So we do not use that new home that was built next to you to say your home is worth that amount. But in Davidson County, sales are at a premium. We will be able to find sales that will justify the value increase or just the value of your property and comparing it to other properties of similar amenities and of similar characteristics. And again, sitting down with the property owners, making sure that they provide us with the information in reference to their property. And of course, if there is a sale that they do believe that we may have missed that we should compare their property to, we're going to be prepared and ready to listen to property owners in the informal review, as we've always done. And of course, moving forward to the Metro Board of Equalization as an independent board, they do make their own decisions, but they can go before that board or go with an individual hearing officer, which is still an opportunity tool for that property owner in their toolbox in reference to getting concessions on their value.
And thank you for that. And before I kick it over to Councilwoman Porterfield, just one last question along those same lines. Sure. So I have my home, and I live in a nicer home in an established neighborhood, and not even maybe a block from me, now there's going to be this big apartment.
The home you live in right now with that beautiful chest behind you. What's that address again, Councilman? We're gonna miss you now.
So now, a block away or 2 blocks away, whatever, now there's a big apartment building. And so I get this a lot from my constituents. Does the apartment building take away from my property value because it's a rental?
Well, it could, but we won't know until sales come about. We get that question a lot, even when it comes to where you're talking about the pipelines going in near someone's home. Of course, the thought of having a pipeline or the apartments close to your home brings about the thought of decreased value. But we won't know that until we start seeing how the sales are developing in the area, whether that apartment complex with whatever it brings to it, whether it be crime or what have you, or whatever type of nature of living for the apartment complex, because we tend to believe that there is not vested interest for someone who lives in an apartment, when in fact that there is. But we won't know how the apartments or how a gas pipeline or whatever the negative nature of what the community is believing until we begin to see sales. And we can see it fairly quickly, are people choosing to live in an area where there's a a conglomerate of apartment building close by? It's the same question you ask yourself for someone who wants to move to in an area of a successful school system or a successful school for a certain neighborhood, or in an area that may have a police department close to it. All of that shows up in the sales. That is desire of the buyer wanting to live in a certain area. And we can begin to depict the reasons why sales, and comparing it to prior sales or previous sales, we can begin to maybe surmise why those sales are going lower in the open market between the open buyer, or between the seller and the buyer, or going higher in an open market between a willing buyer and willing seller. So the answer to that question is really, we have to look at it in the sales. But there are studies out there that have studied those type of transitions. And what has occurred is that we found that there is evidence that it does affect the sales and the market values, and we found where it hadn't been making any effect on it at all. So it's the sales.
Thank you so very much. That was an excellent explanation, and I believe that the community is just learning so much. We did have a question from Councilmember Gloria Hauser. I'm not sure if she's still on the call. Councilmember Hauser, are you still with us? Okay, I'll kick my next question back over to Trustee Gilmore. And before I do ask this question, as we are starting to wrap up, I just want to remind the viewing audience that if you do have questions, please make sure to submit those by 5 p.m. the day before our session. So our next session will be held on December the 3rd. So please make sure to send your questions by December the 2nd, 5 p.m. To Councilmember Kyonzte Toombs' email address. And that is spelled KYONZTE.TOOMBS@nashville.gov. So again, if you could send those questions in the day before by 5 p.m., we would love to make sure that we address everyone's questions. A question for Trustee Gilmore. Could you speak a little bit about the relief of the tax assistance program through Metro Action? If you could speak to the qualifications for the program as well as the approval rate. And there's some interest in knowing if we have to turn a lot of people away for that particular program.
Okay, so I'm gonna be honest. I can't speak to the Metro Action because I don't know. I know that our guidelines are a little bit more strict because we do have income guidelines and we have age, and it seems like they are a little bit more. I should say more loose, but they give a little bit more leeway. But maybe Assessor Wilhoite can speak to that. I just don't know how many they approve, and that shows. Now that you've asked me that question, I will tell you what I will do though. Tomorrow we'll reach out to them and just ask them. I do know that we direct people over there from our office when we're not able to assist them, but I do think that's a good question. And tomorrow I'm going to ask them how many people are they able to help and how many people are they able to turn away. I do not know that information, but that is something that, because my council member asked me, I will make sure that I know it and I will return an answer for you. But in being transparent, I have to say I do not know the answer to that, but I will be accountable and I will follow up with that. We do just send people to them. And you asked me a question earlier that I wanted to follow up on. The interest that is charged after February the 28th is 1.5 each month that the taxpayer is not able to pay their bill. And it comes to about 18% at the end of the year. And they have 2 years. But I will send you an email tomorrow with those answers. And it shows that there needs to be a closer connection between myself and Metro Action. And I will make that happen. So thank you.
Well, if I could, I'd like to go ahead and add that information for you. Once again, I always believe that any information regarding helping the people needs to be provided by everyone. And that's one of the reasons why we include that information in our presentation at all times. When you are someone like me sitting here watching Nashville property values has trended upward, my mind think about the people who are going to be affected by that. So it's very important that we have to give that information to them. And as I stated, this is something I learned when I was on the Metro Council. And what it says is that, what I learned is that it's administered by the Metro Action Commission. The deadline to qualify is June the 30th of each year. Homeowners age 62 or older can get assistance of up to $500 on their property tax payments if taxes are past due. However, the homeowner can also get assistance on current due property taxes depending on their situation. The residence must be the owner, occupied, and the owner's name must appear on the property tax statement. For more information, you're going to call the Metro Action Commission at 615-862-8860. The extension is 70124. I also checked this out before I had provided this information in a prior to make sure they're still offering it, because I know the budget. You cut things and what have you, but this is something through Metro Action Commission and not administered by us or either Council Lady Gilmore for that matter. It's administered by them. So I didn't know if it had been cut by the council or not. So I called, and it is still an ongoing program, and it's something that is definitely one tool in the toolbox that property owners need to be aware of.
But we will get back. I think Council Lady Porterfield did ask me, she said how many people use it. And I do want to know how many, and she said,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that's what I was telling, that's the part I do want to get back with her on. She said how many people use it, and then how many people did they have to turn away? Didn't you ask me that? I want to make sure.
I apologize for that. Yeah, I apologize. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that. And Trustee Gilmore, we'll make sure that that answer is included in our next session as well. There was one other question that we received regarding police, fire, and EMS services that is not directly related to today's conversation with the property assessor and the trustee. So I did just want to acknowledge that we do see this question and we will make note of it and we will make sure to address it at the session that does talk about the city services. So thank you for asking that question. And if we don't have any other questions by any other council members, I don't see any hands in the chat. So if we don't have any other questions, then we are going to wrap this up. So this is the last call for any council members who may want to ask a very quick question. But if not, we just want to thank you, Assessor Wilhoite. Thank you so much. That was such a thorough presentation. Trustee Gilmore, we just thank you so much for, even though you're new to your position, you just did a wonderful job with sharing this information to the community. So we just want to thank you guys both so much for joining us on today.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having us, council members. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you all so much. We appreciate being here. No doubt about that.
And don't forget, December 3rd is the next one. We're talking about sales taxes and all that downtown revenue. Well, pre-COVID, all that downtown revenue and the impact on the city with Councilmember at Large, Bob Mendez.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
And with that, we thank you all for joining us. Have a great evening. We'll see you guys December 3rd.
All right.
Bye.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.org.